Hi guys, this video is going to serve as our Essay 1 prompt explanation. And so our first essay is going to be a narrative, and you can see the due dates at the top there. We're going to have a narration discussion board that will help you practice creating sensory details and dialogue if you choose to include dialogue in your paper. And then we're going to do a rough draft and a final draft. So for this video, I'm first going to go over the prompt, and then I will show you the rubric and the outline, and then some sample essays, and then I will show you how to complete the rough draft discussion board. Alright, so let's get into this here. So the purpose. This assignment will give you practice in composing a narrative essay based on personal experience. Narration is one of the most common types of writing assignments, and not only in freshman composition courses. Many employers as well as graduate and professional schools will ask you to submit a personal essay, sometimes called a personal statement, before even considering you for an interview. Being able to compose a coherent version and/or story of yourself in words is clearly a valuable skill. Okay, so that's kind of why we're going to be practicing with the narration assignment first. So, here's some background now on the assignment. This unit, we will watch Adichie's The Danger of a Single Story. She discusses the danger of judging others based on our own worldviews and the undignified nature of stereotypes. Also, we will read a text by Brent Staples titled Black Men in Public Space. In his text, Staples discusses his daily experiences as a threatening, quote-unquote, black man, and how he is actually the victim when others become threatened by him. Essentially, he argues against the stereotypes in the single story that people have about black men. Now, you will choose one of the writing prompts below. So I talk a little bit about Adichie and Staples here, only to provide some context for your narrative. Okay, so you're going to choose one of the following two options. Option 1. Using Adichie's and Staples' text as a lens, narrate an experience you have had when you were misjudged or when you misjudged someone else. In other words, explain a time when someone else's perception of you was wrong or your perception of someone else was wrong. How did the judgment make you feel in the moment? How does it make you feel to reflect back on this experience? What did you learn from this experience? So, for both of these options, it starts with using Adichie's and Staples' text as a lens. Now, a lens is simply a means to look at your experience. This does not mean that you need to actually talk about Adichie and Staples in your paper. It just means you kind of want to keep them in your mind as you write your story. Okay, again, you don't need to include quotes from either Adichie or Staples in this paper. This paper is a narrative of your personal experience. So that's really important. I don't mean to confuse you here by adding the Adichie-Staples bit in the prompt, but I also do want you, again, to keep their lessons that you learn from their text in your head as you write your story. Okay, so again, don't quote them in your paper. So the first one, again, you're going to tell me a story. You're telling a story here, a singular event. Okay, when you experienced misjudgment or when you misjudged someone else. Okay, so your first paper will take on a story of that event. And then in your conclusion, towards the end of the paper, you want to answer these questions here. How did it make you feel in the moment? How does it make you feel to reflect? And what did you learn? That's all stuff that should be in the conclusion of your essay. Okay, but from intro until the very last body paragraph, you are telling a story of a misjudgment of some kind. Okay, so that is option 1. Option 2, using Adichie's and Staples' text as a lens, discuss a specific characteristic or trait about yourself or an important experience you've had that others would never know unless they got to know you well. How can this trait or experience change others' perception of you? Explain why this characteristic or experience doesn't come out in daily interactions with strangers or acquaintances. In other words, why don't many or any people know this about you? Why is this characteristic or experience significant in shaping who you are as an individual and a citizen? Okay. So here, this is going to be a specific characteristic or a specific experience you've had that others don't really know about you. Okay, again, this gets to our theme of the single story, right? Some people may think something about you, but they would never guess that you, for example, have OCD, which is one of the sample papers you will read this week, right? For example, won't know that you went on this life-changing trip, okay? Again, though, it should still be in a narrative story style, okay? And then throughout and kind of in the conclusion, you'll be answering these questions, okay? So that is option 2, okay? Your paper needs to be 3 to 5 pages, MLA, have a creative title, have concrete details, okay? Again, our narration journal will help you with this. This means you want to include details that appeal to the senses, like some imagery, or you can include some sounds or tastes, or something you touched or smelled, right, into your story. A clear focus, right? Basically, you need to have a point for telling your story. An organizing principle, intro, body, conclusion. Comments on how the experience or trait is significant to you, that will be in your conclusion. Proper style, okay, college level, target audience. Effective structure, and address a reader who is unfamiliar with who you are. Okay, so again, you're choosing one of these 2 options. And so now I want to show you the rubric, okay? So you're looking down the strong column here. You're aiming for strong, of course, in all of these categories. So for the narrative point, it needs to be clear in the intro, conclusion, or both, and it's not ambiguous, meaning there's only one thing it can be. There's not different sentences that sound like your thesis. The secondary support advances the narrative plot. The details appeal to the senses in more than one way and concrete images throughout the story. Secondary support brings the narrative to life. Okay? And then you need to have an effective structure. The plot moves smoothly between the paragraphs. You successfully use time signals, meaning 5 minutes ago, or in the future, or next, second, right? The order of the paragraphs makes sense for what you wish to emphasize, and each paragraph is its own little mini action for the narrative. Okay? Development paragraphs are thoroughly developed, and the points in the individual paragraphs move the plot forward and are relevant to the narrative point. So don't have extra details that don't matter to the story, and also make sure you have enough development so that the reader can fully understand your story. And you need to explain, whether explicitly or implicitly, how each paragraph supports the narrative point, and then there's grammar and MLA. Okay, so this is how I will be scoring your essay. And then we can look at the outline here, and all of these materials are in your Essay 1 materials folder on Blackboard. So really you want to have an attention getter in your intro, some background in your thesis, and then this is just kind of a skeletal way to organize your thoughts. You want a topic sentence, supporting evidence and specific details, and then so on and so forth as you move through the essay. Okay. Now I'm not going to collect the outline in class, but I do strongly recommend that you do an outline for your essay, just to keep yourself organized. And then, so we covered the rubric and the outline. So now I want to show you the Blackboard assignments. So we'll have a Staples discussion board, and then the narration discussion board. You're going to be choosing an emotion and writing a character sketch, okay, and there's very clear instructions here. And this is really going to help you figure out how to include sensory details and dialogue in your essay. And this could be either hypothetical or real for the narration discussion board. But what I really want to show you is the rough draft. Okay. So at the bottom here, this looks like a lot, but really it's all just instructions. You need to have a complete draft. I say here you should only have about an hour left of work to finish your final draft. The rough draft should really be almost a complete final draft. And it needs to meet the page requirement listed on the prompt. So for us, for this first paper, it's 3 to 5 pages. So your rough draft needs to meet that in order to receive full credit. Okay. So step 1 of the rough draft, you're going to submit your paper. And actually I can click on this here to show you. So when you're ready to do the rough draft, you click on this link right here, Essay 1 Rough Draft Peer Review. It tells you right here, but you click on it. The instructions will reappear, okay, so you can see here. And then click on Create Blog Entry right here to post your paper. So you click on it, and you title it, and then you browse and attach your paper, and then you hit post. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, there's a lot of words here, but basically in a nutshell, you are going to copy and paste these questions here into a comment. Okay, so let me quickly just post something on here so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to post something very quickly here. Okay, so I just posted this paper. Okay, that was step 1. Now, you are going to copy and paste these questions right here, and then you're going to comment on 2 peers' drafts. You're going to paste the questions in. And then, as you're reading, you open your peer's paper, and you should open it in a new tab. Open the paper in a new tab. There's your questions. So as you're reading the paper, okay, read, and you go through and you answer these questions. What is the main topic of the paper? Okay, so you go through and you start to answer. Okay, obviously this is just gibberish, but you answer each question for the peer review. And then when you're done, okay, you comment on everything. When you're done answering the questions, you click add, and your comment will show up right here. Okay, so you're filling in these peer review questions right here. Okay, and you're going to do that for 2 peers. And this, I'm taking a while to explain this here because this is the way we will do all 3 rough drafts for this semester. Okay, so once again, create blog entry to attach your paper, and then once you see some student papers down here at the bottom, you can click on comment and you can open their papers and begin to read. And then you answer the questions that I've outlined to give them specific feedback. And then of course I mentioned here, respond to 2 peers who don't have any responses or who have very few. The idea is that everyone will have 2 peer responses. Okay, so if everyone does this assignment and responds to 2 peers, then everyone will have 2 peer responses. Okay, so instead of commenting on those who already have 4, 5, or 6 responses, comment on those who only have like 1 or none. Okay, so that it's fair to everybody. Make sure you note this red part here for the body paragraphs. You'll need to copy and paste these body paragraph questions for every body paragraph. So you're going to copy and paste them initially here, but then for the body paragraphs, right, you need to copy and paste this section over and over and over again for every body paragraph of the student's essay and answer them for each individual body paragraph. Okay, so that is essentially all of Unit 1. We covered the prompt, the rubric, the outline, the narration discussion board, and the rough draft. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me.